Hello, everyone. We will pause for just a moment as we have folks start to come into the webinar. And once it looks like folks are getting in, we'll go ahead and dive into the agenda for today. Any banter we'd like to engage in the meantime? No banter. Yeah. Strictly business. I like that. Let's not get us distracted from the topic.
We should just launch right in.
Awesome. So for the sake of the recording, I think it's fine for us to go ahead and get started now. Thank you everyone for joining us for our office hours. Today's topic is the latest and greatest Fullcast enhancements. So we've been making a lot of changes over the past, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And we wanted to kind of round those up and give not only an overview of what those are, but also give you a walkthrough of what it looks like in the app. So I'll quickly preview the topics here and then hand it over to Tyler and Jason. Key topics, capacity planning. Done a lot of stuff there about ramp profiles, productivity schedules, and more. Copilot automation, so responding to team changes to keep you on top of territory coverage. Salesforce lightning actions. This is specifically geared toward sales managers, helping them to manage account ownership from within Salesforce, while also keeping Fullcast as your source of truth. Some enhancements to corporate family management, different options that let you really wrangle that in and make sure that you're addressing it exactly how you want to. And then we're rolling out notifications within the platform as well. Our format here, a couple of slides just to kind of show you where we're going and then demoing things in the app. I will keep an eye on the Q&A at all times. Feel free to keep an eye there as well. You can upvote and stuff if you see something that catches your eyes. We have a 1-minute feedback survey at the end that we ask everyone to give us feedback so we can continue to make sure that we have content that's really meeting the needs and interests of our customers. And then I will share the recording, slides, supporting resources, etc. via email tomorrow. That is my spiel. I will hand it over to Tyler and Jason to do their intros, and then we will dive in.
Jason, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Jason Greenmore. I'm a customer success manager here at Fullcast. I help folks use the platform and accomplish their goals within RevOps.
And I'm Tyler, implementation consultant, solution architect, and webinar extraordinaire, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, and I'll be walking us through all the new feature enhancements that we have. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be handling questions. So as questions come into the Q&A, I'll keep an eye on that. So please feel free to send those as any of them come up. I'll also interject some of my own along the way.
Yes.
Ashley, are you doing this poll?
I am. Ready?
Okay.
All right. So our question today is, which of our new or updated functionality are you most curious about? I'll pause for just a beat here and we can kind of have these coming in as folks enter the session.
Do I get to answer? Oh, I can't vote. That's a bummer.
You can't. All right.
Because I would vote for all 5.
Yeah. Good, because you're going to talk about all of them. So 50% say capacity planning, and then 25% each for our lightning actions and notifications. And as Tyler mentioned, we're going to talk about all of them, but it's interesting to kind of know what's top of mind for folks. So we'll make sure to spend time particularly on those topics. And now I'm going to disappear again. Have a great session.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley.
Well, since everybody's most interested in capacity planning, we shall discuss capacity planning. I'm going to dive in unless, Jason, do you have any other orientation things or questions that we want to start with?
No, I guess I want to say that, capacity planning is a focus area for us right now. We are working fast on this. We're getting some fantastic feedback from some of our customers that are implementing it. So this is you're gonna continue to see more features on this and more, build out as we go.
Exactly. And, we're not going to spend a ton of time on the overall scenario planner that's been out since June-ish. And we're going to really focus today on some of these 3 things that we've recently released. And the ramp cutoff dates actually also apply for a lot of your target setting and quota setting process. And so not just capacity planning pieces, but let's first talk about this role-based ramp profiles and productivity schedules. What we used to have in the platform is we used to call it productivity profiles. And those are now actually called ramp profiles. And a lot of customers know this as well. You know, you have a new rep that's been hired and they aren't fully productive on their first day, and it usually kind of scales up in a percentage of, you know, first month you're 0%, next month it's maybe 25%, and then 50 and 75 and so on and so forth, depending on whatever the ramp schedule is. We've now changed our terminology to map to how people call it, and so that's now called ramp profiles. And we've also introduced a new productivity schedule, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that is now. So we're going to go into Fullcast. I'm going to go into our scenario planner, which is commonly known as those capacity planning. And I'm going to move quick through some of these screens, just getting to the effective headcount model. And so as we think about our, actually, you know what, I'm going to just also pull up those roles real quick. So we have a bunch of roles. We're going to spend time in this account executive role, and you'll see that the layout's changed a little bit for us. Here is those ramp profiles that you are all used to seeing with the different ramp schedules that are associated with either you're an enterprise or a healthcare ramp, new hire, you're temporarily covering productivity, maybe you're a transfer into the role, so the ramp schedule might look different. That is now, this is familiar to a lot of people and it still exists. It's just a new name that we're calling it. Now, the productivity profiles kind of came about in the sense that we had started having customers build out their capacity plan. And the first iteration of that for us was to actually schedule productivity flat across your 12 months. So what that meant was that if you had a typical productivity of an account executive of $1.2 million, then we would put 100,000 of that productivity in every month of your fiscal year. And surprise, surprise, that's not always the case. And so productivity might look like little mini hockey sticks like we're seeing here in terms of larger quarter ends, or it kind of escalates towards the end of the year, or it might be different depending on what your sales cycle is. Common example would be government. And so you could build out as many of these things as you would like. And this might look different for enterprise than SMB or APAC versus EMEA. And so then these can then be referenced in the capacity plan itself. And so let's go into that capacity plan now. So the first place you'll see this is the default ramp role and ramp profiles. This here is your capacity, or sorry, your productivity profiles that come through. And when we start to build your bottoms up model and the details, we will start with this profile. So as we go into details, and this will load. Which we hope it's going to load. All right. Let's try going back in again. There we go. Sometimes when I load things too early, it does that. I don't know. But anyway, so we have our teams that are here. And I'm just going to go down into Amer Enterprise where we can see the people. And I've got my productivity profiles. I haven't filled out any of them here yet. So if I was to fill out the account executive, we'll now see this kind of update through the productivity of the ramped resources as well as the productivity schedule here. So this is really where this comes through. In our demo environment, this doesn't actually fill out our annual productivity, but in your environments, it will. So you would see that 1.2 million populate here in the annual productivity as well. And then that kind of schedules through in both the carried quota on the far right, as well as the net ramp resources on this like middle section here.
I want to add in here, we also just recently added the ability to look at this in a quarterly format as well as monthly.
Yeah, or yearly even, if you just want to see the 2 years. So you got carried quota for the year, as well as the net ramped resource for the year.
Nice.
And then there's also the truncation of like, maybe I only want to see it in thousands, and you can kind of bring that number down a little bit. So it helps kind of clean that up a little bit. Okay. So the other piece was this ramp cutoff date, and we were kind of looking at this over here in the ramp profiles. This is common for a lot of customers setting quota and using the ramp profiles, where if you get hired anytime in the first half of the month, then your ramp starts in that month. Whereas if you get hired in the 17th of January, your ramp technically doesn't start until February. And so there's now a cutoff date that essentially says any day after the cutoff date, we would then start the ramp in the following month. And you can customize this by ramp profile. And that's really the simplicity of this feature. So there's not much else to say here.
Yeah, that was a surprising tricky thing to try and manage around. There were a variety of ways that people were doing it, but I think most people were just manually doing it or putting not accurate data into Salesforce to make that work.
Correct. Yeah, I think a lot of us were just putting, even though you started Jan 17, we would put a ramp start date of Feb 1 to have the ramp schedule come through appropriately. Then there's the last thing here for our capacity is distribution of effective headcount. So that is also in the capacity planning module and in the details section. What we have here is a bunch of TBHs that we've created. And rather than going through and manually putting your TBHs into each territory based on what you think is the right place to put them, we can now distribute them based on a metric. So you can come in here and say, I want to distribute my TBHs to the sales team. This first question is actually TBRs. I'll just kind of leave that blank for now. And I want to take all the unallocated TBHs, the ones that are sitting globally, and I want to distribute them evenly among the teams, or I can do it a ratio based on some kind of metric. So if I've got like headcount numbers, or I've got like a open pipeline or any kind of ratio of a metric that you want to use, we would then schedule that out across the 4 teams. And then we would then allocate out your TBHs for you. And then of course you can always make adjustments within the teams from there. And so that just helps put some of those TBHs into teams. I think that's important in the long run, because you're going to want to put productivity profiles to each of these TBHs to say, well, you're an enterprise versus SMB. That ultimately is going to impact your carried quota number, which is ultimately what you're trying to get to. And those are the big capacity planning updates in the last couple of months. Is there anything else I'm missing on that one?
I don't think so. No questions yet, so everybody feel free to ask questions as they come up. But I think that's good on that one.
All right. So next, let's talk about Copilot automation. We did release this employee departure Copilot automation a couple of months ago. We followed on with some new hires. Let's go take a look at that. So I will close out this tab. We don't need that anymore. We'll go into the policies and we'll add a new policy. So here are our 2 Copilot policies, new hire and terminate. Starting with the new hire one, essentially what we can do now is detect when there is a new hire in the system and then put them into a territory for you. So you'll have all your TBHs assigned to your territories. When we do see the new hire, either in Salesforce or maybe even you're trying to get ahead of it with Workday or another HRIS system, we can bring that data in, see that they've got hired, use logic in terms of like IDs. Maybe there's like a hiring ID or an employee ID that you've mapped to the TBH, and we can then put them immediately into the territory based on this policy. So essentially, this is looking for the new employee. This is looking for the matching of that assignment, and then confirming whether those TBHs are existing or not, and what to do when the TBH doesn't exist. So, do you want to give it to the manager or not? So there's that one, and then there's also the terminate employee. So when we detect an employee goes inactive in Salesforce, we can then automatically end the assignment, and we can create assignments as well. So we can say, create a temporary assignment with the manager, create a TBH, whatever that might be. And then what do you want to do with any targets or quota that's been assigned? Do you want to reassign that to the temporary user, reassign to the TBR? And we can kind of manage all of that. A lot of times now what ends up happening is that those records stay in Fullcast. That means accounts are kind of staying in an inactive user. They're not being worked, and we want to just transition those as quickly as possible to somebody that can continue to work them, so we're not leaving anything on the table. All right, co-pilots. Jason, anything to add there?
I don't think so. Well, tell me if this feels right, but the new hires feels like it's a great time saver, that you don't have to do the configuration. You get people working on their leads faster. The employee departures is one that's actually going to avoid some errors within the system, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the goal would be on the termination. It's avoiding issues where we're trying to update accounts that are trying to push account owners when they're not actually active anymore. And I think it's also a matter of making sure that they get out of that person's name and into a manager or somebody else's name that can work that. So both of these policies are really about shortening any downtime with all of your accounts that are assigned to a territory. One of the challenges on the new hire thing that we saw was like, well, this person gets hired. Then there's a couple of day lag before they're in Salesforce. And then somebody's got to remember to go into Fullcast to make sure that they get assigned. And so rather than having a week to 2 week lag of getting accounts updated in Salesforce, we can automatically see that they got hired in Workday, put them into the territory. So as soon as their user gets created in Salesforce, we are able to push all of their accounts into their name. And that immediately truncates your lag time down to nothing, and as soon as they are created in Salesforce, so they can start working those accounts immediately.
Great.
All right, so this was a big one. We had a Canvas app, and it still exists, right? And the Canvas app does something similar in terms of it shows you what Fullcast looks like in a smaller view within Salesforce. And there were some cookie things there. You couldn't be logged into Salesforce and use the Canvas app while also being logged into Fullcast. And we really wanted to make it feel like a native Salesforce experience for sales leaders to be able to change account owners. So we don't want you to have to always come back into Fullcast to do onesie, twosie type changes. And we want you to stay in Salesforce and not have to, manage multiple systems. And from there, so what we did is we worked on a native Salesforce Lightning action. And it's called Change Owner, surprise, surprise. And if you just add this button, Then you get a layout like this. You can select the new owner of the account. And as soon as you select the new owner, we still ask you what you want to do with your parent or your children if you're moving a parent. And then if you do want to set them as a named account in Fullcast, you'll get to do that here. And then you can select to just change the owner. And so what that does is it changes the owner in Salesforce immediately. So now Swansea owns this account, and it also moves the account in Fullcast. So then when the export job runs on the nightly cadence, we will update the account teams, we will update the territory. And I've never had to leave Fullcast. It feels like native Salesforce. It just feels like I changed an account owner like you would be normally used to. So that's now out and live for everybody to implement. I don't think there's anything else to add there either, other than I just like this. This is just like, I don't know. I get excited about this. Just the feeling of this thing. I guess the only other thing to really add about this is that you can also do this to transfer territories instead, and this is permission driven out of Fullcast. So what I mean by that is that if I'm a sales manager of a Mayor enterprise, I'm not going to see anybody that is not in a Mayor enterprise. So I can't just transfer this anywhere I want, and I can't just transfer accounts into my name if they're not in a if it's not in a territory that I have scope and permissions to access. So those permissions and visibility in Fullcast drive what you can and can't do in this change account owner workflow.
So we had a quick question. What's the name of the feature again? It's just the lightning button, right?
Change account owner, Salesforce native workflow. I don't know if there's like a specific thing.
Yeah. And then the other question, Ashley, can you respond to that one with some documentation or the release notes about that feature?
You got it. I will do that now.
Yeah, I think Salesforce Lightning Actions for sales leaders, sales managers. Really, anybody can use this. So
I'll just make one, I guess, exciting preview. There's a couple other actions we'll be rolling out. So once those are complete, we'll kind of have a more comprehensive set of documentation for folks. But I will go ahead and share what's there right now. And I think probably what we're suggesting is that our customers work closely with their CSMs and implementation consultants to get that turned on and whatnot. But I'm happy to share the notes as well.
yeah, this will require a managed package upgrade, which there's plenty of testing and things like that that need to happen. That said, implementing this is pretty straightforward. All right. Corporate families.
So set some context on this one first. What is the use case? Where did this one originate?
Yeah, so we had, oh man, part of me feels like I should just do one of these little things here. So we'll call this like ultimate parent 1, right? I'm doing this on the fly here. And we'll do this one, we'll call that actually 2, 3, 4, 5. So and these are all accounts in the system. So what ends up happening a lot of times is that this ultimate parent might be based in EMEA, and then the rest of the subsidiaries are based in, let's say, EMEA. And you have this kind of structure where there's just a bunch of subsidiaries rolling up into EMEA. Ideally, with our existing parent-child functionality, so if I was to go into the plans page and we kind of look at the existing logic, where we had our assign all child accounts to the same segment as the parent, the way that would work would mean that these subsidiaries would follow along with the parent if you built that at that level. So what I mean by that is that at the top level here in Fullcast at all companies, if I turn this on, then all those EMEA subsidiaries will follow the EMEA apparent into EMEA. And that's not always the case, right? You typically want those EMEA subs to go to EMEA and then EMEA to go to EMEA. And so most customers have this turned on at this level. And then as you get down into EMEA, you might be toggling on the assigned children to the parent, which means keep all the EMEA stuff together. Now, as you think about the data in Salesforce, if you have a domestic ultimate that is based in EMEA, and this is great because there's a parent that goes into EMEA that can drive the segmentation for all of your subsidiaries. But that's not always the case with all of the corporate families out there. There's data challenges for this. Sometimes it's not even needed. And so we did see a couple of customers that didn't have this domestic ultimate existing in their system. And so we went and built a fourth feature in our parent-child relationship. So it's called group all accounts belonging to the same corporate family into one segment. So what that means is that even if there's no parent, we are going to try our best to keep the subsidiaries together. So now if I look at this scenario where I have an ultimate parent in EMEA, that's still going to go to EMEA. But now I've got these 4 subsidiaries. And even if these 4 subsidiaries, one's enterprise, and maybe another one's enterprise, this one's mid-market, and this one's SMB, we will keep all of these 4 together. And we make a decision based on where most of the subsidiaries belong. So in this case, most of them are belonging into enterprise. So we will pull all of them into the enterprise node and keep them into one rep level territory. Previously, if you did select the other option, which is this assigned children accounts, those subsidiaries would get split up no matter what, because there's no parent. And so you would see these 2 go to enterprise, this one go to mid-market, and then this one go to SMB. So this helps just kind of keep those corporate families together within those larger regions. I think I saw, was there a question?
No, that was actually
No. Okay.
No, that was a great explanation. So we'll pause real quick for questions because this is a little bit of a different process. It basically democratizes how to decide where where the whole family goes. So this is a great solution for that problem. But again, if you have the domestic ultimate in your hierarchy, if you know that your data is perfect, then you can still do the other option that has the family follow the parent.
And I still, for my purposes, I would always try to opt for the original child accounts follow the parent. Keep those domestic ultimates when possible. I think that's a much cleaner approach. You can use roll-ups to roll up values onto the parent to drive like maximum employee segmentation, customers, whatever that might be. And so this really is only here if you really do have challenges with that corporate family data, and there is just only one parent and that's somewhere else, and there's no domestic ultimates that sit. There is just this risk of, if this happens to be mid-market, then we're going to put all these into mid-market today. Unless you kind of do some roll-up stuff, and this is what we've talked about with some other customers where let's call this like employee data, right? And this was 1,000, this was 500, and this is 50. We could do roll-ups where you just roll up and stamp the max employee on every account, which would then force everything into the proper enterprise territory. And still that group by would then make sure that it goes to the same reps territory. So you're not even splitting among smart plan, where one rep in enterprise gets one of the accounts and then another rep gets another account, and so on and so forth. We're kind of keeping it all together. So there's some things that we can do with the data to kind of avoid this situation here. But if you do have a solid domestic ultimate structure, then stay with the parent child.
Got it. We did have a quick question. I might need a little bit of clarification, but here's what somebody asked, it says, this is really for if you have child ownership at the parent level as the rule, correct? Most companies I've worked at have that as the exception, only if the sub doesn't act independently. So I think
Hey,
we're talking about where the rule gets applied. So what Tyler was saying is typically, at the theater level, when you're splitting between EMEA, AMER, APAC, we typically see them split entirely because you don't typically want to have an EMEA account managed by the same person that's doing the AMER accounts. Below that, people tend to align the accounts to the parent.
yeah, I mean, this kind of just depends on what how you think about your corporate families. And if you really want to keep all your children and subsidiaries aligned with one rep, because one rep is going to work an entire corporate family like the Walt Disney Company, but you don't have a parent that's going to drive all of the ownership, then this is what this is for.
Yeah. I think the question makes a little bit, I just processed it. I get it now. Yes, that's exactly right. So for some companies, they like to have the parent control where all the subsidiaries go, just because that's part of their sales motion. But that is the case that we're talking about here. If you're used to keeping all the accounts independent, unless there's an exception, then this is you're good with that first option.
Yep. Yep. You would just split everything up.
Yeah.
Okay. I think there's only one more left.
I think so.
So platform notifications, they
Another
are
big one.
slowly rolling out. Go ahead,
I said
Jason.
this is another big one. This is one that's like the first conversation that I have with most customers involves asking this. And the first time sales leaders get involved, this question comes up as well.
Yeah, so these are slowly rolling out. You will start to see a notifications icon in production. You probably won't see it just yet, but that will come up here shortly. This is our kind of sandbox environment. So if you do have like a pre-prod or a sandbox, you might see it in there today. There's a new little bell icon for in-app notifications. And underneath your profile, you'll see a notification preferences that allow you to kind of toggle on. So the first three that we are going to kind of roll out with will be assignment-based notifications, some target notifications, and then the third one, which is authentication, logging in, logging out, failures on that stuff. And so coming back to here, if you do see this, you want notifications turned on, you can opt in, you can choose to send it via email or inbox or both or one or the other, whatever it might be. And we'll then send you notifications. So we've kind of predetermined what those notifications will be. So an example of like targets, that might be a change to a target. So you update the value from one territory or one target from like 1,000 to 2,000, and then you'll get a notification on that, and we can kind of see what that would look like. I think if we find a target that we can plug into here. Maybe not, because this is not the demo environment. So the notifications would come through. So target edits, doing the relief on targets. If somebody deletes a target, on the assignments, any changes to assignments and things like that will also come through for those notifications. And I think you'll start to see those things in prod soon enough, but those was released maybe like a week or two ago. And as we get the templates up and running, we will start pushing those to production. I think that's it.
Great. So keep an eye on that.
Yep.
So Ashley, I'll hand it back off to you for wrap up.
Yes. Thank you all. I have the shortest survey. I mentioned at the beginning, as we continue to kind of roll these type of sessions out, your survey is very valuable. I'm going to launch a poll that has 3 quick questions. I think the survey should be visible now. So yeah, 3 quick questions to kind of help us continue to refine the way that we do these sessions, the kind of things that we offer. Anything that comes to mind in terms of feedback for us, topics that you'd like to see, how helpful this is. If you have other ideas, we're open to all of it and hope to get your feedback. So we'll linger here, I think, for a moment, since this is within Zoom, so folks can fill that out and ask questions if they come up. Otherwise, we will see you next time. And thank you.
Yeah, I'll just jump onto that. Like any ideas that you have would be great. We are happy to do deeper dives into how to do things within the platform, more detail on individual features, or even strategy discussions. How might we think about our go-to-market? How could we approach different strategies, or how could we implement Fullcast in a way that better integrates into our system?
I think, Tyler, dare we preview the next one? I think the next one we were talking about is reporting. So now that we're just like bantering a bit, but that's one that I think that we've seen a need for folks, particularly during planning, and to leverage the reports that are unique to Fullcast and the way that we're presenting them differently from the BI solution that you may have, kind of highlighting those things for folks and answering any questions related to that. So if that sounds interesting, do let us know and stay tuned.
Yeah, we are doing a reporting one, aren't we?
Yeah, it's next as soon as I schedule it and make it real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone needs to come to the reporting one. Anyway, all right.
Awesome.
No one has questions. It means I did perfect.
That's right. That's right.
They're all asleep at their keyboards.
Yep. All right.
It's just, you're in the meeting, you're like, how many people are asleep right now? Yeah, I don't think we need to linger any longer. If there are folks who weren't able to take the survey, let us know. We're here via email and all the other ways that you contact us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.